Hey everybody, and welcome to another model building workshop. And today we'll be looking at Airfix's Dassault Mirage F1C in 1/72nd scale. Now this is an older kit, it's been around a while. This particular boxing is from 1986. So it's still a pretty good kit, at least it looks like a good kit. We'll see how it builds, right? So let me show you some of the parts and show you what it looks like. So all right, so here we have the gas tanks, bombs, missiles, all the ordnance, some of the cockpit details are there. Part of the fuselage, engine, wings, wheels, pylons, pilot, separate nose cone. Some clear parts, which we'll leave them where they are. Pretty reasonable assembly sheet here. Diagram's not too bad. Obviously this is meant for universal use, so text is very minimal in several languages. Let's see, what else to point out is that, okay, so the paint color callouts are done in the Heller Humbrol line. So they just give you their numbers, like M6, which apparently is black. G8, I think, is silver. So you do have to do a little research on that because there's no other indications of what color they are other than looking at the box or artwork here, a photo. So I had to do a little research on that. I googled some of the like cockpit details and just to see what it looked like on a real plane. And it seemed like it'd be a black, dark grayish color. I mean, this is calling for you to do black, so somewhere in that range seemed to be typical for the cockpit of the French Mirage planes. So, and then we have the painting guide, which could be a little bit better, but for the 80s it's not too bad. So you have, with this kit, you have a version for the South African Air Force, thinking probably the early 80s, I'm guessing, maybe late 70s, and there's a French Air Force plane from Marines France as well, which is in a blue-gray color. And then we have the decals, which they're not terrible. I found them slightly off register and leaving a little bit of detail to be desired. And I guess they're okay, but anyway, so what I decided to do, which is not unlike me to do this, for those of you who have been watching these shows, I opted for a decal sheet here. And let's look at this too, if I can get it open. They do pack a lot into a little bag. So this is from, get all the data out here. Print scale, 1/72nd scale planes. So you have a number of different options. You know, there's a couple of Iraqi ones from the Iran-Iraq War. I believe the top one is the Greek Air Force with the, I'm not positive. It says EPA. We have to look that one up as to what nation that actually is. And then we have some from Iran, from the Iran-Iraq War here. And then we have some Spanish ones. The South African one is here. It's the same one. It's in the Airfix kit, but with improved decals. And one more sheet here. A Moroccan one and one for Ecuador. So there's a number of different choices here. The Moroccan one seemed to grab my eye, but we'll see what I decide when I start to get to that point. Okay, so let's see how the assembly goes with this kit. It starts with the cockpit, which there isn't much to it. There's a pilot and a seat and a bulkhead, and then the two fuselage halves. And let's see how assembly goes. Let me get my tools together. And I do have, let's see how this works out. I do have some weight to try to put in the nose. These are fishing weights I picked up. Hopefully it'll be enough. So, because it's good to weight the nose down so that the nose wheel will actually land on the table, not stick up in the air. That's one of the things you need to do with jet kits if you're going to do that. You know, have the landing gear down. You need to create the extra weight. So let's try getting this cockpit together, such as it is. I thought the detail on the pilot was actually decent for this scale, especially since this is a fairly old kit. Getting out my tools here so we can really see him. But it's not bad. Dun, dun, dun. Bit of a seam on the top of his helmet here. Okay. Let's see how this seat looks. Hopefully this won't be too bad. Just touch that up afterwards. Curious how he's going to sit in here. Where to put the cement? Oh, looks like I picked good spots not to paint. I'll take a little more paint off the seat here. Make sure we have a good place to put the cement. Oop, almost dropped it. Almost. Typical of this hobby, it's going to end up on the floor at some point. You know it's going to happen. We finally started some in-person classes here at the library, and the kids are learning the lesson of the carpet monster. But they're finding stuff. We have a good carpet here at the library, so things show up pretty well, which is nice. Okay, let's get him in here. Oops. Give that a second to come on. I guess this guy's been on vacation too long. He doesn't want to get in the seat. Get back to work. Come on. Well, he's had a long vacation, actually. He's been on vacation since 1986, according to the box. So. All right, he's being stubborn. He doesn't want to stay in here. So we're going to have to get more serious with the cement. Come on. All right. Okay, I'm going to give him a minute. Guy's kind of fighting. Probably should have sanded this stuff before I started the video, but I didn't. I suppose I could pause this, but yeah, I'm going to pause this because you don't want to watch me file that, right? Hands, how many of you want to see that filed? Anyone? Anyone? Of course not. All right, let me pause that and we'll get back to this in just a second. Okay. So now I'm going to try to put the bulkhead in the pilot. Here, let's see. Line those pins up. Yeah. That'll do it. It's still a 1/72 scale. It's small. Well, it seems to fit pretty well. I think I may have painted a little more than I should have in here, but let's clean it out a little bit. Sand the paint, scrape some of the paint off. Painting the insides is always a tricky part. Hold on. Because I tried to go right along the lines here that are in the cockpit. But I was a little bit off. I should get a little more space. But it's nothing that you can't fix with a good X-Acto blade. Get in there and just scrape enough paint off so that you've got a good contact point for your piece is gonna line up here. Actually, I should look at the instrument panel too. The instrument panel is just on this piece here. There's not much to the panel. There's no decal. I tried, I don't know if you can see it, I tried to add some color to the gauges, but it's a very small piece, so there's not a whole lot. Unless you're really good with a tiny paintbrush. I'm not the best at that. I know there's people out there that are really good at that kind of detail, so you can go to town with it, because there is, it's molded in, the details, if you can get a brush to bear in there. It's just barely on there, but you know, so you could give it more detail. The other question is, I don't know how much you're going to see, although it looks like it has a pretty sizable window here. Okay, I don't know how that's supposed to go. It shows you a good diagram on the sheet. It's just, oh, I think I got it now. Yeah. Well, we'll find out in a second when all this comes together. Yeah, and then I gotta put a weight in here, because I think the nose cone might be too small for me to fit a weight into it. That does not want to sit for anything. Come on. I think you're supposed to go up here. Don't you want to work? No? I think a lot of this stuff's going to come together as we squeeze it all into place. So I don't think this fishing weight. I just tried this out with another model kit. I was doing a MiG 17. Yeah, it's way too big for that. I'm going to have to sit that. Hopefully. It's a big weight. It may not even work. Oh yeah, it'll fit inside the aircraft, but it's not going to fit, and the nose cone's too small. It's a pretty good fit. Okay, so what I'm going to do with that, we have a balancing act going on here. Like riding the high wire. Ah. Just open this and half of it goes on my hand. Well, this is turning into a lesson of what not to do. I have to pack some of these stuff up from home, and that's what this is. I brought this in from home, so it is unsettled from the car journey. Not that it's a far ride for me, but because Providence isn't that big a city, but big enough That thing's got jostled in the car. So I'm using this this white craft tacky glue to secure the fishing weight into the hull there, fuselage. Just enough to hold it in there, because the plastic glue is not going to do anything with the weight. Then it'll just roll around like a rattle. And it will probably make your pilot very unhappy. Then you might get a strike on your hands, and then things just go downhill from there. Okay, let me see if I can get him to sit. How is the other challenge is, okay. Okay, this may be an issue, because his feet, I gotta get his feet in a way. So he's kind of using this weight as an exercise ball for his feet. All right, let's hope that works. And I think I'm gonna have to adjust that instrument panel as I go here, because it's gonna be challenging. All right, looks like it's gonna fit. Yeah, okay, it looks like it's gonna work. So let's try to get all of this stuff situated. Yeah, I'm gonna add a little bit more of the tacky craft glue onto the weight. Yeah, it's a little well shaken up. Sometimes you have to work to get that glue out of the tube, but not today, we don't. This is why I really like this glue for the applicator. It's a long way to get into some tight spots that would be difficult. I mean, I guess you could do it with a tube and a toothpick, which is what I used to do back in the day. And we still teach that method here at the library with the kids. The glue and toothpick routine. What's interesting about this kit, I'm noticing that there are these grooves in the rear of the fuselage. It looks like it's supposed to be carved out for something. I'm not sure what that was for. It's not mentioned in the instructions here. See, I'm getting glue on my fingers. I'm being a little sloppy today. So it makes me curious if there was another version of this, or if that was for a display stand, or what that was for. I need some household tools. Try to get that. Actually, it fits pretty good. All right, this fuselage rear is a little bit. That's unfortunate, because it's a nice fit, except for the back. I mean, it's in line. It just has a slight bump down the bottom that I would wish wasn't there. All right, I'm going to try to rubber band the bottom, the rear of the hull fuselage. Yeah. Maybe I needed more coffee today, huh? Guess I can blame the heat. It's kind of getting warm outside. All right, let's convince that to get nice and together there. There's a bit of a mold seam. It's not terrible. I think we can clean that up with the X-Acto blade later. It's doable, considering this is an older kit. That's not bad. And the plastic is, it's hard to explain this, but when you build a lot of these models, the plastic's more reminiscent of the molding that you'd get from Hasegawa. This kind of a harder plastic than I'm used to for Airfix for that era. But anyway, just something that kind of popped into my head when I was handling it. Okay, I'm going to jump around a bit because I want that to dry well. So I think I'm going to jump onto the later steps and start getting the fuel tanks together and the bombs. And there's a lot of different detail involved in some of these. I mean, bombs, it's usually just top half, lower half. As you can see, that's what they're asking for here. But this particular tank has got these fins on it, which is interesting. And then you have a choice of different types of armament here. So there's like a, not sure the names is, but the French versions of basically an air-to-air missile here, another type of missile going there. I could probably look these up. I did know them, but that's not in my head, and I should have brought the reference book. I'm sorry I don't have it today. And then you have a choice of either a centerline tank or this bomb rack with 4 bombs. So, all right, I'm gonna do a few things here, and I don't want to run this video too long, but get some ideas of some of the other stuff with the ordnance here. And I guess these are silver. Okay. $44 and $45. Yeah, these here. Of course, I will be looking up different details online to see how the different air forces have these. And I've got the instruction sheet for the decals for the different like desert camos and so forth, like from Morocco and Iraq, Iran, or the more jungle-ish scheme for Ecuador. And it's a two-tone green for Ecuador. It's one thing that's fun about modern aircraft is the wide number. Curious how that's really supposed to look. All right, looks like it's got a tapered point. There's the connection point on the end of this gas tank. There's a sizable chunk on the end there, which I'm going to have to trim that down somewhat judiciously. This may take a bit of sanding to get that to look right. Because how the sprue attachment and the part, it's hard to tell where one begins and the other one ends. This is kind of typical of an old Airfix kit. You do have a lot of filing to do, but I've definitely seen worse. Since this is from the later 70s, but it's a little bit improved to some of the older kits. And there is an attempt at a cockpit, which isn't bad for this scale. It's not like planes from like the 60s and 70s, that model kits where you have a pin and the guy just sits on a pin. There's no chair, no nothing. So it's definitely stuff above that era. Yeah. Okay. But anyway, yeah, the French jets tend to get sold to many different countries, so you have such a nice variety to choose from. Yeah, that could be better on a number of levels. Yeah, you have to do a little bit of work on the rear of this gas tank. This is going to take clothespins to hold this together. This is a little reluctant to go together here, but we will make it work. Then I'll take a pause, And we'll come back and see if I can get some of the wings on there, just so you get that idea of what that would look like. Oops. All right, so here's one drop tank. It's interesting that they have these little details up top. All right, we've got a clothespin to make that thing stay together. Take a pause here, and I'll see if I can come back and work on another detail before we end for the day. Okay, so we got the fuselage is dry now. I've added one of the air intakes here. Going to finish up the other one. So far, these are going together without any issues. Just the usual sand and cleanup that's common. The weight seems to be good. I think it's going to be enough to hold the plane down. Again, I just used basic fishing weight. I don't know if even there's a weight on there. Would have been nice if it did. Not really. Well, I'll tell you what, I'll take one out of the bag here. So I use these split weights. I used to go fishing back in the day. So it's a little split weight there. That's all I'm using. You can see that. Yeah, anyway. So that's what I grabbed at the local bait and tackle shop. I mean, I'm in Rhode Island, the ocean states. It's not exactly difficult to find this stuff. Hopefully where you are, it's not too difficult either. Or maybe you get better or other alternatives for this. Good bait and tackle shops. Pretty available here. Even in the urban areas. So this engine, the exhaust. I don't build a lot of jets really, so I don't always have the right terminology. So forgive me if I call things in rather idiotic terms. For my subject matter, I tend to like World War II the most, but I do enjoy one thing, like I said, about jet aircraft is some of the different ordnance you can put on it, and I really like the variety of paint jobs and the national markings. That's one of the turn-ons for me in building models is, you have this many options for this plane. Like I said, Spain, Iraq, Morocco, South Africa, etc. for this one plane. And there's many other choices you can get to. That's just one option I picked up. There's so many out there. Okay, how is that? I don't like how that fits really. Oh, there is okay, so there is a little divot and a tiny tab here, which is supposed to line this up. Supposed to, anyway. It'll have to be a little better, but yeah, that'll work. A little paint that'll make that fit in a little nicer. Clean this up a little bit more. Let's get that more in here. Outside, and then, well, though with the jet engines, paint tends to have a lot to do with how they look at the end of the day, at the top of the morning, whatever expression you want to use. So it doesn't go very deep in there, but some black paint and some burnt metal type colors I think will jazz that up pretty nicely. So there's that. And I'll go a little bit longer. I know we're running a little on the long side. I don't want to go too far today. because I gotta get on to other things at the library, but we do want to have some fun with this video and not leave you guys hanging either, right? Okay, so let's try a couple of wings, and we may end it there for this episode. Okay, so the wings of this are rather small. I mean, it's almost like the stabilizer, almost the size of the wings, which I think is interesting about this. Okay, so let's try to get a couple of these on there, and we'll see what they look like. Hold on a second while I cut these out. Okay, let's try the wings now. There's a good diagram of the instructions for the proper angle that these are supposed to be on. Yeah. Try to get that. A bit of a blob there. We don't want the blob. Pops in pretty good. Slight seam in there, but nothing terrible. And it's got a droop to it, which it's supposed to have. Be careful with that dry right there, because it shows you on the instructions the angle that you want to have. I'll try this last one. Yeah, I think we'll wrap it up there. As I mentioned, France sold these planes to many countries, so there's many choices, many options, especially throughout the Middle East. Because both sides, Iran and Iraq, used this in the Iran-Iraq War, and that decal sheet has examples for both countries. All right, so you have to try to line it up and make sure you've got the right angle. It seems like it wants to sit pretty nicely on its own. It's one of the challenging parts of getting something that's on an angle. It can be hard to line it up. So kind of that eyeball it and hope for the best. The challenge here is to sit it down for it to dry. It kind of wants to rock to one wing or the other, so I'm gonna have to get creative. We'll make a cradle for this thing to sit on. Maybe I can use my, there we go. I just sat it on a pair of wire cutters here, so it's sit and get the right angle, and maybe I can put the nose cone on and then go from there. All right, we will catch you guys later. All right, so that's the part one anyway. If I continue and do a part two, we'll see. But anyhow, that is the Mirage F1C by Airfix. See you next time.